My name's George Morris. I'm a partner at Simmons Simmons, and I focus on the cryptocurrency sector.
My name's Sarah Crabb. I'm a managing associate at Simmons Simmons, and I'm an investment fund specialist.
What does the crypto market look like at the moment?
So the crypto assets market in the UK, I would say, is in a state of flux. Over the summer, there's been a fair amount of price stagnation within the crypto assets market, and that's meant that activity within the sector has generally been slightly repressed, as generally the market has been consolidating and attempting to make sense of the relative lack of volatility within the sector. Price volatility is a very normal thing within cryptocurrencies, and so the market has been genuinely sort of slightly confused about how to operate in a world where the price is relatively stable. So the market itself, in very broad sense, is rather flat. Having said that, in the UK we had a little bit of regulatory news on the 19th of September when the Treasury Committee reported about its views on about the state of play in terms of regulation of crypto assets within the UK. Now that report was cautiously positive about the crypto sector, and that meant that now there are a lot of green shoots in terms of projects starting to come online, people being a bit more positive about the future of crypto within the UK, and the fact that crypto may well in the future start to exist as a regulated activity that can be brought really into the mainstream. And that, I think, in the short to medium term is going to start to really start to increase the amount of activity that we see in the crypto sector within the UK. Specifically within the fund sector, there's still a relatively limited amount of activity within the UK in terms of crypto and funds, and in the EU more broadly. But that's something that we think over time is going to change.
How do funds fit within that?
So I've been monitoring developments with crypto funds over the past 18 months. And there's really been an uptake in the launch of crypto funds in the last 12 months or so. And that has been driven by the headlines showing price volatility in currencies such as Bitcoin. And it starts to become quite an interesting asset class for managers. And that explains why fund managers are really looking at this asset class and wanting to get involved. In terms of the funds I've been seeing, so I've been seeing three types of funds. So firstly, you'll have your existing established fund managers who want to trade a small portion of their existing fund portfolio in crypto futures and to see how that develops. Secondly, you'll have cryptocurrency funds which invest directly in crypto assets. And thirdly, you'll see funds which invest in crypto futures, so not directly in crypto assets. And there are various challenges with structuring and operating crypto funds, particularly those that invest directly in crypto assets.
What is holding back the crypto funds industry in the UK at the moment?
One of the key things that's holding back the industry, I think, is the regulatory position. So one of the things that institutions really thrive upon is the certainty that surrounds the regulatory position in respect of the business that they're undertaking. And at the moment in the UK, there is still a significant amount of grey when it comes to how crypto is actually regulated. And so at the moment, a good part of the reason why the industry is being held back slightly is because everybody's still in a sort of wait and see approach, trying to understand how regulation applies to crypto funds, and trying to see who's going to be first to market, really to sort of be the one to test the waters with the regulator. Until we see someone coming first to market, or we see a little bit more clarity from the regulators, we're still going to see a fair amount of reticence when it comes to launching crypto funds in the UK.
And I would add to that there are still only a relatively small number of reputable service providers that are providing administration and custody services to crypto funds out of the UK, though that position is changing and has changed dramatically over the last 6 months. So there are now sort of major players entering the space. And thirdly, I would say that there's a tax issue for UK investment managers with the IME, so that's the investment manager exemption. And most UK fund managers who are trading in the UK will be relying on that exemption so that their offshore funds are not liable to UK tax in the UK. And that's all based on a 2001 statement of guidance released by the HMRC, and that doesn't include cryptocurrencies or crypto assets on the white list. So it's unclear whether if you're trading cryptocurrencies in the UK that you can rely on the IME. So that's really a wait and see issue as to whether the HMRC come out and clarify their position on that.
Where do we go from here?
I think one of the key places that we need to go from here in the crypto industry in the UK is a lot more certainty of regulation. So the crypto report from last week from the Treasury Committee was very, very useful in terms of providing a lot more certainty about the way that government is going, but it left a lot of open questions in terms of asking the FCA to respond to the report itself. So we need to wait for the FCA to actually come back and give its views on the Treasury Committee's report. We also need to see the report from the Crypto Assets Task Force, which is due to report in the next few weeks. And both of those responses are going to be incredibly important to working out where the market goes in the UK in respect of regulation and making sure that we are on a track that is much clearer than the track that we're on at the moment. The other thing that might be interesting to look at in the near future is whether or not institutions are going to go down the route of perhaps doing what is happening in the US at the moment with trying to get exchange-traded funds authorised by the regulatory authorities. That's something that is subject to significant headwinds in the US, with the ACC rejecting a number of them and currently reviewing that approach. But in the UK at the moment, we have very, very limited guidance from the government about the political will to actually approve those kind of products and listing crypto products on public markets. And so that's something that is likely to come up, but we don't yet know how successful that type of activity might be.
For my part, I think that crypto funds will continue to increase in number, and that's as the industry becomes more and more comfortable with the asset class. And clearly there's an investor demand for crypto funds, so I think they're here to stay.